we have a brand new chapter. And oh my God, things just got very good, very nice. And I really do wonder. I honestly don't know what's going on. Here's the thing. I want to start off by saying Kagurabachi chapter 94. I want to start off by saying I really like the way that Hokazono is writing, and I really hope that more writers do this, because what Hokazono is doing is really good. So what Hokazono does a lot is Hokazono writes like a plot point, but doesn't dwell too much on it or doesn't explain too much about it. And this is done so that in future, I guess chapters or in future arcs, this can be brought back up. For example, Hokazono never truly explained what was the purpose behind the Hishaku sale, because the Sinuichi sale, because the Hishaku had the sword and then they put it up for auction. And it was never truly fully explained why they pulled this move. And I always thought it was kind of weird. But thanks to this chapter, we finally found out what their true plan was and what they actually wanted to do. So that was very interesting, right? So let's break this chapter one by. The main purpose of this chapter was to explain how the Sinuichi works, how the sword bearer takes over your mind, and basically also to kind of explain what the whole purpose for the auction really was. That was basically the entire purpose of this chapter. So let's break it down piece by piece. First of all, the Hishaku are on some shit, right? They've got people on the inside doing some stuff. They have people bought. They have people, we still have to realize, we still have to know what that bearded man, what they have on him or what they promised him. But yeah, he's one of the traitors. I don't know if he's the traitor that gave up Chihiro's dad's, if he gave up Rokuhira's location, but he's one of the traitors. So Yura, what Yura did was, before the auction, Yura imbued the Sinuichi with his own spirit energy, and this bearded guy from the Kamunabi basically hid the fact that there was residual spirit energy from someone from the rest of the sorcerers from the Kamunabi, so that it would go unnoticed, so that this raid that seems kind of pointless and kind of ridiculous actually has an entire purpose, which is to camouflage the fact that they're entering, and so that Yura can get closer to the sword and possibly even wield the sword. And basically what I imagine is they also did this raid not only so Yura could actually use the sword, but also possibly to detect where the sword bearer is, so that maybe they can free him. So let's start with the whole point of the auction. The whole point of putting up the Sinuichi for auction was to test who had control over the Sinuichi and how much they could control the sword after a specific amount of time passed. I always thought that it was very weird that they gave up the Sinuichi when they had it for auction. And here's the thing, I imagine that the original plan was to sell the Sinuichi, get some profit off of that sale, and then just see the outcome of someone using it. It's a 2-for-1 deal, because they get money from the sale, but they also get to test and they get to see what happens when somebody tries to use it. And the whole point of the auction was that for somebody to buy the sword, for somebody to use the sword, and for them to see how long it took before the sword bearer crept into your mind. Because it's not the sword that creeps into your mind and makes you go insane. It's the sword bearer. The sword bearer has such a strong, connection to the sword, to the Sinuichi, that he basically creeps into your mind through the sword and basically takes control of your body. And, and I imagine that that's what the original plan was, to get some money from the auction and then just wait until inevitably the owner of the Sinuichi, just passes to a better life and then they can retrieve it. It was just a test because, like Yura says, there was no point in just straight up using it. and just seeing what happened, right? So it was a really good plan. But Kiora really took it to the limit. Kiora had a very good spiritual energy and he had a really good willpower. So Kiora was like a perfect example of what someone with a strong willpower could do with the sword. So now that they saw what Yura was able, what Kiora was able to do, they Yura wants to do the same because he feels he's capable of doing it. And now, how does a Sinuichi work? So you can imbue it with spirit energy, but as long as you have no intention of using it, it doesn't take over you. Or at least the sword bearer doesn't take over your mind. But once you get the intention of using it, that's the moment that you can actually wield it and the sword bearer slowly creeps into your mind, right? And here's the thing, this explains why at the beginning of this whole raid, Yura had those like dark eyes, because he was trying to use it at the beginning, but I guess he just didn't use it fully, or he used at least just like a small speck of it to get some like, strength, like an amp, because he got a full amp. He went from getting dog walked by Uraha to overpowering Uraha and Natsuki. So that's like the buff that sword gives you is just incredible. And towards the end of the chapter, we get a panel with like some black feathers. So I imagine Samura and Chihiro, I guess the rest of the gang, they're on their way. So I wonder if Yura will be put down by the sword. I wonder if Yura will be a sacrificial pawn so that the sword bearer can escape. I don't see Yura making out of it alive. I don't see him making out of it in one piece. Either the sword bearer completely takes over his mind and he embodies Yura's body, or the sword bearer escapes. So yeah, that's the whole thing. And I also wonder if it's not Yura, if Samura will also meet his fate, because I'm seeing a red flag for Samura. He just reconciled with his daughter and he just had a massive character shift development. So I don't know if he's gonna make it out of this alive. I hope he does, but I'm not so sure. And we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, in the meantime, things are getting really good. It's gonna be a 4v2, but again, Yura got a massive buff. Again, he went from getting absolutely dog walked by by Samura to just absolutely overpowering both Samura and Natsuki. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. My predictions are probably they're gonna have Samura and Natsuki are gonna have a tough time fighting against Yura. The advantage they have is that Yura will only have like the physical buff. He will not actually have the sword, so he won't be able to use, I imagine, any of the sword's abilities fully, well, if he's not wielding the sword. But I think they're gonna get dog walked, and I think they're gonna meet their end. Probably, maybe. I don't think so. So yeah, I think it's gonna be Samura and Chihiro are gonna get there. They're gonna fight against Yura, and I really think there's a big red flag for Samura, and I don't think he's gonna make it out of this. I just don't feel like it's gonna happen. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching. And I guess I'll see y'all next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Sorry for like the audio. I'm recording this at night, and I kind of have to whisper a little bit. I can't talk really loud because my neighbors, I have really thin walls, and my neighbors and my roommate is sleeping, so it's a big thing. But I really wanted to make a video. So yeah, catch y'all next time. Bye bye.